15 inspiring stories that change your life. Everyone in life has moments when difficulties overcome, and hands seem to be about to drop. The stories of these amazingly strong-willed people will help many of us to understand that we can cope with any situation and in any life circumstances. The main thing is to believe in yourself and in your strength. 1. Nick Vujicic, a man without arms and legs, could stand up himself and teach others about it. Nick was born in Melbourne, Australia. With a rare illness, he has both hands missing to the level of his shoulders, and a tiny foot with 2 fingers protrudes directly from the left thigh. Despite the lack of limbs, he is engaged in surfing and swimming, playing golf and football. Nick graduated from college, having received a diploma in 2 specializations at once, accounting and financial planning. Today, anyone can come to his lecture, in which Nick motivates people, especially teenagers, to never give up and believe in themselves, proving by his own example that even the impossible is possible. 2. Nando Peri, after surviving a plane crash, 72 days waiting for help, 72 days of cold captivity suffered Nando and other passengers who miraculously survived in a terrible plane crash. Before flying over the mountains, which, ironically, happened on Friday the 13th, the young people who boarded the charter plane joked about the unlucky date, but they did not expect that this day they would really be in trouble. It turned out that the wing of the plane caught on the side of the mountain and he, having lost his balance, fell down with a stone. When hitting the ground, 13 passengers were immediately killed, but 32 people survived, having been seriously injured. The survivors found themselves in conditions of extremely low temperatures, lack of water and food. They drank melted snow and slept side by side so as not to freeze. There was so little food that everyone did everything to find at least some living creature for a common dinner. After 9 days of such survival in the conditions of severe cold and hunger, the victims of the disaster decided on extreme measures. In order to survive, they began to use the corpses of their comrades as food. So the group lasted another 2 weeks, at the end of which the hope of being saved completely disappeared, and the radio transistor, sending signals for help, turned out to be malfunctioning. On the 60th day after the accident, Nando and 2 of his friends decided to go through the icy desert for help. By the time they left, the crash site looked terrible, saturated with urine and smelling of death, littered with human bones and cartilage. Wearing 3 pairs of pants and sweaters, he overcame huge distances with a couple of friends. Their little rescue team realized that they were the last hope for everyone who was still alive. Men steadfastly survived the exhaustion and cold that followed them on the heels. On the 10th day of wandering, they still found a way to the foot of the mountain. There, they finally met a Chilean farmer, the first person in all that time, who immediately called the police for help. Peri led the rescue team with a helicopter and found a crash site. As a result, on December 22, 1972, after 72 days of a fierce struggle against death, only 8 passengers remained alive. After the plane crash, Nando lost half of his family, and during the crash he lost more than 40 kg of weight. Now he, like the previous hero of this article, is lecturing on the power of motivation in life to achieve goals. 3. Jessica Cox, first armless pilot. Jessica Cox suffers from a rare birth defect and was born without arms. None of the tests which her mother passed during pregnancy showed that something was wrong with the girl. Despite her rare illness, the girl has tremendous willpower. Today, as a young woman, Jessica can write, drive a car, comb her hair and talk on the phone. She manages to do all this with the help of her legs. She also graduated from the Department of Psychology, was engaged in dancing and is the owner of a double black belt in Taekwondo. In addition to all this, Jessica has a driver's license, she flies a plane and can print 25 words per minute. The plane, which is controlled by the girl, is called Ercoupe. This is one of the few models not equipped with pedals. Instead of the usual half-year, Jessica took a 3-year course in airplane driving, during which she was trained by 3 highly qualified instructors. Now Jessica has more than 89 hours of flight experience and has become the first hands-free pilot in world history. 4. Sean Schwarner overcame lung cancer and visited the 7 highest peaks of 7 continents. The highest mountain on Earth, Everest, is known for its dangerous conditions for climbers, among which are called strong gusts of wind, lack of oxygen, snowstorms and deadly avalanches. Anyone who decides to conquer Everest faces incredible dangers all along the way. But for Sean Schwarner, as practice shows, obstacles simply do not exist. Sean at one time was not just cured of cancer, his case is truly considered a medical miracle. He is the only person in the world who has survived the diagnosis of Hodgkin's disease and Askins tumor. He was diagnosed with cancer of the fourth and last stage at the age of 13, and according to doctors' forecasts, he was not supposed to live for 3 months. Nevertheless, Sean miraculously overcame his illness, which soon returned when doctors again discovered a tumor the size of a golf ball in his right lung. After the second operation to remove the tumor, the doctors decided that the patient would last no more than 2 weeks. However, 10 years later, Sean, whose lungs function only partially, became known to the whole world as the first person to survive cancer after climbing Mount Everest. After conquering the highest point on the planet, Sean is full of desire and strength to move on and inspire people around the world to fight against the disease. You can learn about this and his other ascents to the mountains, his personal experience and ways to overcome the disease in his book, Continuing to Grow: How I Defeated Cancer and Conquered All the Peaks of the World. 5. Randy Pausch and his last lecture. Frederick Randolph or Randy Pausch, Years of Life, October 23, 1960 to July 25, 2008, American professor of computer science at Carnegie Mellon University, CMU, in Pittsburgh, PA. In September 2006, Pausch found out that he had pancreatic cancer and that his illness was incurable. On September 18, 2007, he prepared and delivered a very optimistic, as for his condition, lecture entitled, Last Lecture, Achieving Your Childhood Dreams, within the walls of his native university, which soon became very popular on YouTube, and professors invited many famous media outlets. In that famous speech, he spoke about the desires of his childhood and explained how he reached each of them. Among his desires were to go to zero gravity, participate in the game of the National Football League, write an article for the encyclopedia, Book World, become one of those guys who win the biggest plush toy in the amusement park, to work as a designer ideologist for the Disney company. He even co-authored to write a book called The Last Lecture, on the same topic, which soon became a bestseller. Although after a terrible diagnosis he was only prophesied for 3 months, he lived another 3 years. Pausch died July 25, 2008 after complications of cancer. 6. Ben Underwood, the boy who saw with his ears. Ben Underwood was an ordinary moving teenager from California. Just like his peers, he liked to ride a skateboard and a bicycle, play football and basketball. For the most part, the 14-year-old boy was the same as all children of his age. What makes Underwood's story unique is that the boy leading a life common to his age was completely blind. At the age of 2 years, Underwood was diagnosed with retinal cancer and both eyes were removed. To the surprise of most people familiar with the teenager, he was absolutely not worried about his blindness, despite the widespread stereotypes of blindness as the end of life. So, how did he manage to move no worse than sighted guys? The answer is simple: it is all about echolocation, a technique commonly used by bats, dolphins and some other mammals and birds. When moving, Underwood usually made clicking sounds with his tongue, and these sounds reflected off surfaces, showing him the nearest objects. He could distinguish between a fire hydrant and a bin, and literally saw the difference between parked cars and trucks. Arriving at the house where he had never been before, Ben could tell in which corner the kitchen, and in which the staircase. Unshakably believing in God, the boy and his mother fought to the last for his life, but the cancer soon spread to Ben's brain and spine, and he died in January 2009 at the age of 16. 7. Liz Murray, from slums to Harvard. Elizabeth Murray was born on September 23, 1980 in the Bronx, in a family of HIV-infected parents, in the New York area, where only the poor and drug addicts lived. She became homeless when she was only 15, after sweeping her mother and after her father was taken to a poor shelter. Whatever the girl had to endure during this time, but once Murray's life changed dramatically, namely after she began to attend the humanitarian course of the Preparatory Academy in Chelsea, in Manhattan. And although the girl went to high school later than her peers, having no permanent housing and taking care of herself and her sister, Murray graduated from them in just 2 years. Note: in the USA, the high school program is designed for 4 years. She was then awarded New York Times scholarships for needy students and was admitted to Harvard University in the fall of 2000. Liz was forced to interrupt her studies at the university in order to care for her sick father. continuing his studies at Columbia University, where she was closer to him and stayed with him until the end, until he died of AIDS. In May 2008, she returned to Harvard and graduated in psychology. Subsequently, her biography, full of tragedy and faith, became the basis for the film, which was released in 2003. Today, Liz works as a professional speaker, representing the Bureau of Washington Speakers. During each lecture for students in groups or business audiences, she tries to instill in the audience her strength of mind and will, which pulled her out of the slums as a teenager and directed her on the right track. 8. Patrick Henry Hughes, the blind cripple participating in the concerts of the Louisville marching band. Patrick is a unique young man born without eyes and unable to fully straighten his arms and legs, making his movement impossible. In addition, in order to correct scoliosis, 2 steel rods were surgically attached to his spine. Despite all these circumstances, he overcame his many physical problems and excelled as a student and musician. Patrick learned to play the piano and trumpet, and also began to sing. With the help of his father, he took part in concerts by marching bands at the Louisville University School of Music. A virtuoso piano player, vocalist and trumpeter, Patrick has won numerous contests and received awards for his strength of will and spirit, because what only cost the young man to achieve all this. Many publications and television channels wrote and talked about him, because such a huge willpower cannot be unnoticed. 9. Matt Fraser, a SEAL man whose ailment did not prevent him from achieving success in show business. The Englishman Matt was born with a serious illness, phocomelia of both hands, underdevelopment or lack of limbs. This was due to side effects of the drug thalidomide prescribed to his mother during pregnancy. Unfortunately, this is far from the only case when the imperfection of medicine and the professional mistakes of doctors can ruin life. Although Matt's hands grow straight from the torso, and there are no shoulders and forearms, his physical handicap did not prevent him from becoming a completely successful person. Fraser is not at all shy of his appearance. Moreover, he often shocks the audience by speaking naked. Matt is not only a rock musician, but also a rather famous actor, whose fame was brought by the role of Seal in the acclaimed series, American Horror Story, Circus Freaks. By the way, Fraser is far from the only actor in the series whose unusual appearance was not created using makeup or computer graphics. It was probably the phocomelia that helped Matt Fraser to play the character so plausibly from the injustice of nature. Fraser has proved to many that for success in show business it is not at all necessary to run to plastic surgeons, shredding your body to please fashion trends. The main thing, to have willpower, hard work and talent. 10. Andrea Bocelli, a blind singer who won the hearts of millions with his voice. Andrea Bocelli is a world-famous singer from Italy. Rare musical abilities woke up in Andrea in early childhood, when he learned to play keyboards, saxophone and flute. Unfortunately, the boy developed glaucoma and almost 3 dozen operations did not give the desired result. As you know, Italians are one of the nations that love football. It was this hobby that forever deprived the boy of his sight when, during the game, a soccer ball hit his head. Blindness did not prevent Andrea from studying. Having received a law degree, he continued his musical education with Franco Corelli, one of the best opera singers in Italy. A talented young man attracted attention and began to invite him to various performances. Soon, the career of a young singer quickly went uphill. Andrea became a popularizer of opera music, successfully combining it with a modern pop style. An angelic voice helped him achieve success and world fame. 11. Gillian Mikado, a girl who appeared on the covers of glamorous magazines in defiance of a wheelchair. Few can boast of meeting the strictest requirements of the fashion world. Trying to get into the ranks of models, girls exhaust themselves with diets and physical exercises. However, Gillian Mikado proved that you can love your body even when it is far from modern ideals of beauty. In early childhood, Mikado was diagnosed with muscular dystrophy, a terrible disease that caused Gillian to be confined to a wheelchair. It would seem that dreams of a world of haute couture were not destined to come true. Nevertheless, our heroine managed to attract the attention of the founders of the Diesel brand. In 2015, she was offered a lucrative contract and often began to invite to various photo sessions. In 2016, she was invited to participate in a campaign for the Beyoncé official website. Of course, no one will envy the fate of Gillian, because she is forced to overcome every second pain. However, the popularity of Mikado helps girls accept themselves as they were created by nature. Thanks to such strong-willed personalities, you begin to thank life for the gifts that we so often take for granted. 12. Esther Verger, multiple champion with paralyzed legs. Esther was born in the Netherlands in 1981. Since childhood, she was fond of sports, actively involved in swimming. However, during physical exertion, the girl often became ill. Despite numerous analyses, doctors for a long time could not make Esther an accurate diagnosis. After several brain hemorrhages, doctors finally identified Esther's problem, vascular myelopathy. At 9 years old, the girl underwent a complicated operation, which lasted about 10 hours. Unfortunately, surgery further worsened the condition of the baby, in which both legs were paralyzed. The wheelchair did not stop Esther from continuing to exercise. She played basketball and volleyball quite successfully, however, tennis brought her worldwide fame. Verger has become the champion of the Grand Slam 42 times. Hundreds of Esther victories have become a source of inspiration for people with disabilities who dream of a sports career. Although in 2013 the girl finally left professional sports, she continues to achieve success. Having received his education in sports management, Verger now holds the post of director of the International Wheelchair Tennis Tournament, is a consultant to the Netherlands Paralympic team and gives lectures. In addition, she founded a charity foundation to help sick children play their favorite sport. 13. Peter Dinklage became the star of the screen in spite of the non-standard appearance. Peter is a vivid example of people who are able to achieve success despite all life's barriers. Dinklage was born with achondroplasia, a rare hereditary disease that results in the development of long bones. According to doctors, the cause of achondroplasia lies in the mutations of the growth gene, which leads to dwarfism. The boy's family income was rather meager, his mother taught music, and his father, once an insurance agent, became unemployed. Far from the most rosy childhood brightened up performances in front of the audience with an older brother, a talented violinist. Usually fame comes to the actors quite early, but the lucky star was lit for Peter only in 2003, when Peter was already 34 years old, after the release of the film, Station Warden. The not-so-rich track record in the early years of his career is due to the actor's unwillingness to star in roles in which dwarfs are usually involved. Peter flatly refused to play dwarves or leprechauns. From 2011 to the present day, Dinklage plays the role of Tyrion Lannister, one of the key characters in the most successful series of our time. Acting talent brought Peter many honorary awards, and not so long ago a wax figure of Dinklage appeared in the Madame Tussauds Museum in San Francisco. 14. Michael J. Fox, an actor, writer and public figure who was not even stopped by Parkinson's. Canadian by birth, Michael has gained fame in Hollywood from a young age. He was remembered by the audience thanks to the role of Marty McFly in the cult series of films about time travel. The worldwide love of fans, an impressive fortune, which totals several tens of millions of dollars, many will envy this. That's just the life of Michael, only seems cloudless. The actor was no more than 30 years old when he began to develop symptoms of Parkinson's disease, although this disease usually occurs in old age. For a long time, Michael did not want to put up with the diagnosis. The furious denial of the disease almost caused a new problem, alcoholism. Fortunately, the support of loved ones helped Fox to reason in time. Fox, despite all the physical difficulties caused by the tremor, continues to act in films to this day, striking us with acting talent. It is worth noting his participation in the series Boston Lawyers, where Michael played Daniel Post, a rich man who broke the law in an effort to preserve his health. Now Michael, in addition to a career in film and writing, is actively involved in supporting people suffering from Parkinson's disease. In the late 90s, he established a public organization designed to study aspects of the disease and ways to combat it. 15. Stephen Hawking, a paralyzed genius inspiring millions of people to study science. Speaking of people who have accomplished the impossible, one cannot but mention the luminary of modern science, Stephen Hawking. Stephen was born in 1942 in Oxford, the British city, known worldwide for one of the oldest universities. It was there that our genius will study later. The craving for science was probably inherited from his parents, who worked at the medical center. During training, when Stephen was no more than 20 years old, he began to show serious health problems due to the development of amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. This disease causes damage to the central nervous system and leads to muscle atrophy, and subsequently can cause complete paralysis. Unfortunately, existing medications only slow down the disease, but do not treat it. Hawking, contrary to the attempts of doctors, was slowly losing the ability to control his own body, and now he is barely able to move only one finger of his right hand. Luckily for Stephen, meeting talented scientists has paid off. Thanks to friends' achievements, Hawking can move and communicate using an advanced wheelchair and speech synthesizer. For many people, a wheelchair becomes a curse that completely destroys the person and the desire to do what they love. However, Hawking demonstrates to us that even a completely paralyzed person is able to earn impressive amounts, flash in the headlines of the media, and build successful relationships on a personal front. Stephen's main achievement was his colossal contribution to modern physics and the advancement of science to the masses. Serious health problems did not deprive Stephen Hawking of a sense of humor. He loves to make comic scientific bets and even appeared in the comedy series The Big Bang Theory, playing the role of himself. These amazing personalities have shown by their own example that infinite power lies in people. Man is able to survive in the most severe conditions. Will and perseverance help fight the disease and succeed. Science, sports, cinema, music, the world of fashion, all areas of activity remain accessible under any circumstances. Do not curse fate for all adversity. Find the incentive to win and do not give up. And perhaps one day your path to success will motivate others.